Hello, everyone. Good morning. If we can kindly allow about a minute or two to remind our colleagues to also join, so that in the next 2 minutes we can start the webinar. Thank you very much. Okay, so good morning once again from my side, and to everyone joining us in Ghana and beyond. On behalf of Blue Resources Research and Policy Institute and our partners, we would like to warmly welcome you all to today's webinar, that is Harnessing Equity and Inclusivity for Mangrove Conservation in Ghana. This webinar actually is part of our BlueChats series, and we are delighted to have such diverse audience with us this morning. I could see that people are joining. Yes, we are having researchers among us. We have NGOs, we have government institutions, we have students and some community representatives, as well as having international partners to this webinar. So basically, we want to discuss how equity and inclusivity can strengthen mangrove conservation's efforts in Ghana. And so we will basically have three sections actually. We are going to have two presentations, a panel discussion, and then we open the floor for Q&As and any other comments that will be added to make this webinar a success. And so my name is Rahmat Kwegrin-Duka. I'm a lecturer at the University of Environment and Sustainable Development at Somenya, and I also volunteer as the country coordinator for Ghana so far as Blue Resources Research and Policy Institute is concerned. And I am going to be your moderator for this webinar. Yes, so once again, thank you for joining. To set the tone for today's discussion, I would like to invite the Executive Director of Blue Resources Research and Policy Institute to share a word or two with us for us to start the webinar. Thank you very much. Director, please, over to you. Please, you are muted. We can't hear.
Yeah, I'm saying I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just want to thank you very much, and just want to share something small about us at Blue Resources. That is the name of the organization, as has already been highlighted, is Blue Resources Research and Policy Institute. And if you want to know more about us, even though I'm going to give a brief review about us, you can find more information on our website. And if you want more on us, you can also email us for collaborations and any other stuff. Okay, who are we? We are a non-profit organization that has been duly registered, and our core objective is to promote the sustainable use of the blue environment through policy advocacy. And our mission, is to foster responsible stewardship of inland, coastal, and marine resources through innovative programming such as this, and also policy advocacy and through networking and research. In terms of our product, we have a lot of product, and one of our key products is the Blue Mobile Virtual Center. That is what we go to schools, and usually our targets are schools that are not at the coast inland areas. For example, myself, originally, I'm not from the coast, I'm from in the eastern region. So the idea is also to bring the ocean education to students and pupils within the inland areas. So we use the Blue Mobile Virtual Center for that. And we have the BlueChat, which is this webinar is also part of our BlueChat, where we discuss issues that relates to the blue space and blue environment. Then we have also the Blue Research, where we also ask for collaboration from here, and where we also conduct research on marine ecosystems and climate change impact, fisheries management, and the blue economy in general. Then another thing that as part of our product is also we do some publications also and policy brief. So as part of this webinar that we are having, we're going to, at the end of the day, have a policy brief that we'll be publishing. And also finally, there's one product that I would encourage anyone who wants to be part of it. We have what we call the Blue Affiliates. And this one, we are looking at people with some expertise, and also people who have some experience and also are willing to help. So they come on board and they help in championing the blue agenda. So without much ado, I want to thank you for joining this webinar, and I send it back to our moderator for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tachi, for that brief remark. Thank you so much. So I will also would like to mention that this webinar, which is BlueChat, is also in commemoration of the World Mangrove Day 2025. And as part of the celebration, BlueRRPI, that is Blue Resources Research and Policy Institute, decided to have this impactful webinar in a way to, first of all, also educate the public what Mangrove is all about and their role, significant role, so far as our earth is concerned. So once again, I would like to thank you for joining. And can I say happy World Mangrove Day to all of us? Yeah, so we'll zoom into our first presenter. Like I said, this is going to be a 3-session. We will have 2 presentations. After that, we'll have a panel discussion, and then we move to the Q&A. So I will encourage that should you have any question, any comment, you can jot it down, either start putting it in the chat, and then when we get to the Q&A, you will be given the opportunity to equally express yourself. So when you are not talking, I will kindly recommend that you mute yourself so that we can have a very flow discussion. Once again, thank you. So moving into our technical presentations, our first speaker is Mr. Divine Wolanyo Hoto, and he is representing IOC, that is UNESCO Ghana. He's an assistant research scientist at CSIR Water Research Institute, and he also volunteers at BlueRRPI as our research officer. He will speak on the status of mangrove conservation in Ghana. And so, Mr. Hoto, if you can hear me, you can unmute yourself, and if you have any presentation, you can share your screen. We are all ears. Thank you.
Is my screen being shared now? Is it visible?
Yes, it is being shared. We can hear you, but there is some form of echoing in your background, so kindly check.
Right, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And we can still hear the echo, so I don't know, you may have to work on it.
Okay.
Great.
So my presentation would give us highlights to understand what is going on currently in Ghana's mangrove conservation, what the situations are, our challenges, and how we are currently handling the challenges to build a strong resilience in the time of climate change. The presentation will focus on the essence of coastal ecosystems where mangroves play very salient roles, and then highlight on some experiences that Ghana has achieved in mangrove management. The presentation may not be able to focus explicitly on all of the projects ongoing, but the focus is to let us understand, importantly, what is going on, and also mention some few projects that are recent and then important opportunities we can draw. The coast of Ghana, as most of us know, stretches about 550 kilometers from the western region to the Volta region. Ghana's coastal areas are zoned mainly into 3, which is the eastern, where the Volta Coast and some parts of the Greater Accra Coast are. We have the central, which is situated within the central region and some parts of Greater Accra, as well as the western coast within the western region. We derive a lot of important resources, including ocean and wetlands, that we get a lot of resources to support our livelihoods and economy from. Offshore drilling and hydrological processes are also very important things we derive from it, including mineral and energy. Ghana's coastal infrastructure is one that supports Ghana's economy due to the national GDP contribution. It also contributes strongly to trade and industry. You realize that most of the organizations or businesses going around the country, most of them, or a significant portion of them, are situated within coastal areas. And most of the heavy duty ones, including ports and harbors and communication, fisheries, hospitality, all within these coastal areas, making them very essential areas for us to pay attention to. In Ghana, we realize that our fish needs are very important to our nutritional needs. Therefore, fish where we derive from also within our coastal areas is essential, including oil and gas. Our focus today is mangroves, where mangroves are already situated within our coastal areas. Mangroves are usually associated with estuaries and lagoons, and these are identified as habitats that provide strong biodiversity, provide food, provide coastal protection during flooding and other consequences. Mainly in Ghana, the three notable species of mangroves are the red mangroves, the Rhizophoria, the white and the black, which are the Avicennia, and then the Lagunaria, respectively. The Avicennia and the Rhizophoria are usually the commonest ones, which is the white mangrove for the Avicennia species, and then the Rhizophoria, which is usually the salt-loving, and also have very strong prop roots for flood protection. Some of the important fishes that we note are the black chain, that is usually called in other languages like in the Fantic, it is called I'll come back to it. And then we have also shellfishes that also provide essential biodiversity, including food and livelihood to coastal dwellers that are engaged in fishery and other fish processing activities. It is important to know that here in Ghana, our coastal areas face challenges and the mangrove areas are not limited. There's poor planning that also affects marine spatial planning that can be used to attain proper economic derivatives from the blue carbon and the blue economy. We also understand that even though the coastal areas contribute proportionally little to Ghana's land size, it is able to take a significant portion of the population, which is close to 30% of Ghana's population. It is no wonder that we see a lot of human activities ongoing in these areas. Critically, even in policy-wise, there is currently no coastal marine management policy that directs proper efforts into managing our coastal resources, including mangroves, properly as a country. Again, in Ghana, there are several institutions, or the management of coastal areas is imbibed into the mandate of some institutions. And sometimes the overlay of roles find ourselves in ways that create some lacuna for inactivity for proper management. The recent Coastal Development Authority that has been established is doing its work very well. However, it's only mandated to manage the human affairs within coastal areas of Ghana and not the resources. All of these actually heighten the threats that mangrove resources are faced with, coming from the population pressure, the economic demands, the sporadic ones that are not within control of man, as well as what comes also out of nature. Currently in Ghana, the mangrove degradation has heightened, and the current rate is around 25.3 kilometer square per year. The rate at which Ghana's mangrove destruction is going on has really heightened. According to data, and this work actually is presented by Nunu and Ejekum in 2022, the work avails that Ghana's mangrove coverage used to be at 181 kilometers square, but today we have lost enough mangroves and currently have mangrove coverage about 72 kilometers squared. Realize that in the span of 40 years, about 40 years, Ghana has lost significant portion of its mangroves, even though this is not too different from what is happening globally, where global mangroves have been degraded to about 30%. Ghana's own is really high, above 50%. It is important to also take note that in Ghana, the high proportion of mangroves are usually situated in the eastern coast, which is in the Volta region, and the least proportions within the central and the greater Accra regions. And then the next one that also has highest proportion is within the western region, dominantly within the greater Amanzule forest area. At the backdrop of these challenges as a country, we continue to dedicate strong efforts to how we can foster approaches to conserve our mangroves sustainably, because this approach is what can help us to build our resilience and also adapt against climate change and other coastal hazards that we don't even expect. As a matter of fact, in Ghana, we rely on community approach volunteer, the efforts of CSOs and NGOs, all together with research, government, and academia, with the support of international development partners, working together, sharing ideas, sharing information, the needed resources to make sure that we drive a multisectorial approach to be able to manage our mangroves. And so the slides going forward will get to understand how we've been able as a country to successfully achieve some of these initiatives. Currently in the University of Ghana, being led by the University of Ghana and with support from other institutions in Ghana and out of Ghana, the Mankoga project is currently, through research, finding ways to use nature to address coastal hazards in coastal areas of Ghana. Currently, this project is going on within the Volta region of Ghana. Hempuano, together with Hempuano, an NGO, together with the University of Education, Winneba, is currently running a pilot study to understand how effectively carbon credits can be built for farmers as a way to provide alternative livelihood for them and also discourage them from over-relying on natural resources such as mangroves. The Seawater Solution is also promoting sustainable agriculture systems, including vegetation cultivation, where they are considering or cultivating edible vegetables using deserted saline land, or better still, land that are within coastal areas. This is also happening within the Volta region, and they are also taking up mangrove reforestation initiatives. Hempuano has also been able, through study and work, demarcate or have placed efforts within the Greater Manzule Wetland Complex to develop a map understanding to the threshold or the proportion of mangroves and the different kind of mangroves that are located within the area for proper conservation. We are also currently, together with the support of Global Forest Watch, building a sustainable forest monitoring system within the Western region, where they are including community people to develop long-term spatial monitoring systems to be adopted by community and to enhance sustainable usage of forest and mangrove resources. The Afriterra March project currently also is considering nature-based solutions to ensure that the impact of climate change is reduced, as well as increasing community resilience. They're undertaking a lot of mangrove nursing projects and also increasing community participation and training, hoping that it is able to build the necessary carbon required to foster the sequestration as well as behavioral changes that can protect and conserve these resources. In Greater Accra, within the Densu area, the Development Action Association with DOPA, Densu Oyster Pickers Association, are currently undergoing important community work such as citizen science, where they themselves are able to understand the kind of environment required for the species of mangroves that they are planting. They are also undergoing nurseries where they imbibe community members with this knowledge. Currently, they have been able to draw the men into this conservation action where the men are also planting the white mangrove, which they rely on for their fishing activities. Within the Volta region, led by the Development Institute, which is also an NGO in Ghana, they are developing tools that can help restore mangroves and also protect them for longevity. It is also important that in all these, gender plays a very important role in understanding the inclusiveness to address coastal conservation management in Ghana. A study by Wascal in Ghana presents how, based on challenges and based on opportunities, each community is taking up initiatives to address conservation of mangroves. In the Densu Delta, led by DOPA and DA, they have been undertaking afforestation or planting of mangroves, and as a matter of fact, have understood that they need to stop. However, with the first commission, the wildlife division, yes, in as much as our depletion is gradual, we have no choice than to still cut mangroves to support our livelihoods for the meantime. But here is the thing, that once you cut, you ensure that you plant to sustain the conservation as well as the livelihood that relies on mangroves. Ghana IOC, which is the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission in Ghana, currently at CSR Water Research, benefited from a capacity building which gathered players and actors and managers of coastal areas, particularly mangroves and blue carbon ecosystems, where we undertook 2 weeks intensive training in the field to understand how to measure or collect data on mangroves and also mangrove soils, and also dedicate effort to developing case scenarios for specific cases. As a matter of fact, the network is looking forward to fostering and partnering with other institutions to achieve these goals, to ensure that Ghana takes up its proper course in mangrove conservation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hoto Divine. Thank you for highlighting those important conservation efforts. Thank you for sharing the importance, and it's worth noting that some of the conservation activities or efforts done by some institutions are equally part of our panelists today. We have Yempuanu here, we have Da here as well, and that means that we have the right people on board to do this kind of discussion. So once again, Divine, thank you so much. So we'll move on to our second presenter, and like I said, if you have comments, if you have questions, just jot them down and then we'll address them as we get to the Q&A session. We'll move to our second presenter, and he is Dr. Eric Krampa. He's the Program Support Officer with the West African Shellfish Hub at the Center for Coastal Management at the University of Cape Coast. And he also volunteered as a research officer at BlueRRPI. Doc, he is going to share some perspective by highlighting the experiences of Shellfish Hub in support of harnessing equity and inclusivity for mangrove conservation in Ghana. Dr. Krampa, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Ramat. Please, is my screen visible? And can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can hear you. And it's visible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Dr. Eric Apia Krampa, Program Support Officer with the West Africa Shellfish Knowledge and Outreach Hub, which is the Shellfish Hub hosted at Center for Coastal Management, which is also the Africa Center of Excellence in Coastal Resilience at the University of Cape Coast. So this morning, I will share some experiences of the Shellfish Hub in the Women Shellfishers and Food Security project. So we all are aware that mangrove are important ecosystems which support livelihoods, biodiversity, and also help in climate mitigation and also help protect our coast. However, over the years, Ghana's mangrove coverage is fast declining, and some of the causes have been attributed to unregulated and unsustainable harvesting, pollution, human encroachment, and of course, mangrove die-offs from climate impacts. Mangroves, as I said, are important ecosystem. They are in some communities, they are considered as sacred ecosystem because they are directly connected to the livelihoods, cultures, and norms of the local communities. And so when we want to approach the conservation, then we need to approach it with inclusivity, then also equity. And so when we say equity or inclusivity in the context of mangrove conservation, what do we mean? Equity simply means fair distribution of benefits and opportunities in the conservation, in the sense that no one is left out or people are not disadvantaged, most especially people whose livelihood are directly connected to the ecosystem. Then when you talk of inclusivity, it simply means active participation or involvement of relevant stakeholders, making sure that all voices are heard in shaping the future of the ecosystems. And when we do this, it's guaranteeing meaningful participation from all stakeholders and ensuring effective conservation. It also ensures mutual benefits, then promote collective decision because everybody feels they are part of the conservation or decision making in shaping the future of the ecosystem. So this takes me to what we do at the West Africa Shellfish Knowledge and Outreach Hub. So as I indicated, this regional hub is hosted at the Center for Coastal Management, which is the Africa Center of Excellence in Coastal Resilience. And since it was established out of the Women Shellfishers and Food Security project to amplify the good work and also to build on the work that was done in the project. And since its establishment, we've been engaged in knowledge sharing. A lot of knowledge and information was generated during the project. And so we have set out to share some of this knowledge. Then we also engage in participatory research, also in regional workshops, and capacity building, all towards sustainable shellfishery and mangrove conservation in the sub-region. So for the Women Shellfishers and Food Security Project, it was actually funded by the USAID and a co-creation with the University of Rhode Island being the lead institution, and other institutions like the University of Ghana, University of Cape Coast, Tri-Women Oyster Association in the Gambia, Development Action Association in Ghana here, then World Agroforestry. So the main aim of the project was to empower women shellfishers through right-based, ecosystem-based, and participatory shellfisheries and mangrove co-management. The implementation framework underpinning the project implementation was that if women shellfishers are empowered to be able to undertake or carry on shellfishery and mangrove co-management, incorporating adjacent land food system productions, then shellfishery and mangrove health will improve. Then also diet and livelihood will also improve, ultimately resulting in resilient coastal communities. And the strategies were to strengthen evidence-based through research and data collection to inform some of the initiatives that were undertaken, then also to build capacities of stakeholders, then also to highlight successful initiatives for replication and scale up in other places. So for the application of equity and inclusivity in this project, we realized that balanced representation of stakeholders in co-management committees ensured compliance. Then there was also equal access to benefits. People were made to understand that they all stand to benefit equally and also to contribute to decision making. And there was also a fairness in conflict resolution. Then also incorporation of indigenous knowledge. We realized that the local communities, per their constant contact with this ecosystem, they have over the years generated a lot of knowledge which was necessary to be incorporated in the conservation efforts. And then also we employed a lot of local languages in our workshops, meetings to facilitate broader participation. So for the project implementation, some of the outcomes are sustainable shellfishery and mangrove conservation around Densu estuary, created by DA and DOPA. Then also in the Kambi wetland, Bullock and Alhan areas in the Gambia, spearheaded by the Tri-Women Oyster Association. We're supposed to replicate the successful application in Densu estuary at Nakwa, but due to the abrupt cancellation of the USAID worldwide, or the shutdown of USAID worldwide, things have slowed down a bit. Yeah, also we realized that there've been increase in awareness of mangrove conservation in the local communities that the project operated. And there was also been improved outcome through shellfish, in incomes of the shellfishers through shellfish value addition and alternative livelihoods. And there's also strengthened governance structures because the local rulers are involved in the conservation process. So the challenges, as I indicated, has been limited funding for sustained stakeholder engagement and scale up and replication. As I already indicated, that we're supposed to replicate the shellfishery and mangrove co-management at NAQUA, but due to the cancellation of the USAID project, things have slowed down. We also realized that sometimes cultural norms limit full compliance. Then also climate change impacts affect mangrove conservation efforts. And there is also lack of national policy support. So for the lessons learned from this project, we realized that equity and inclusivity are important in that they increase community buy-in. Then also capacity building and sustained engagement of stakeholders is key to success. And also there's the need to build regional collaboration to allow for knowledge transfer and also replication to other places along the West African coast. And it's also very important. We realize that it's very important to link conservation initiative with livelihood. When people realize that their livelihood depends or is linked with conserving a particular ecosystem, then they will do all they can to protect or conserve that ecosystem. So for the way forward of the project and the Shellfish Hub is to expand and replicate successful gender-based shellfishery mangrove co-management initiatives in Ghana and other parts of West Africa, and also to sustain partnership among stakeholders, institutions, NGOs, and local communities. So I will end this presentation with this call to action for us as stakeholders, researchers, NGOs, to do our best to protect mangroves, empower communities, to also build a resilient coast. Thank you for your attention, and I'll be on standby to if there's any question or clarifications. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Krampa, for those important linkages that you've shared with us. And yes, there is a call to action to all of us. There is the need for us to protect our mangroves, because with these two presentations, we've appreciated their importance, and so we need to protect them. We also need to empower our community, the need to include all on board. And I like a point that Dr. Krampa made, that there should be active participation, not just participation, but active participation, so that together we can achieve a resilient ecosystem through a national policy. And for our students who have also joined us, I also see this as an opportunity for you to take note of some of these institutions and the great work they are doing so far as conserving our aquatic ecosystem is concerned, and even start thinking of volunteering in some of these organizations to also contribute quota in protecting and conserving our aquatic ecosystem. So we've finished with the first part of our webinar, and we are moving to the second part and the third part, which will be our Q&A. So for the second part, that is going to be our panel discussion. And we are privileged to have distinguished panelists among us, and each of them is going to bring their wealth of expertise from different perspectives. Not in any particular order, we have Mr. Daniel Norte, who is the program manager, that is Landscape, Aquatic System Dynamics and Livelihood Initiatives at EN Puano. Mr. Daniel, you're welcome. We also have Mrs. Emilia Edwina Norte, and she is the Center Manager for Fisheries and Training Center of Development Association, Development Action Association. So if you heard da from Dr. Krampa's presentation, and that is it, Development Action Association. We also have Miss Nada Ndahuma Tando. I hope I got it right. She is a spatial planner and then the Deputy Director, Standards and Compliance, Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority in Ghana. She's the Deputy Director. And we also have Mr. Samuel Apia Ofori, who is also the Project Manager for Africa, One Tree Planted. And he's also currently a PhD candidate at Université Libre de Brussels. That is in Belgium. I hope I got the French correct. Yes, and we also have Mr. Atakusi, who is the Wetlands Manager for Wildlife Division Forestry Commission, who is also online to share a thing or two so far as mangrove conservation in Ghana is concerned. We hope to also have some global perspective beyond Ghana, what is happening. We hope to also discuss that as well. And so once again, I welcome all our 5 distinguished panelists on board. And this is how we plan to run the session. I will pose some set of guiding questions under some thematic areas. And then each panelist will have, let's say 2 to 3 minutes to respond. And then if other panelists also have a follow-up to reflect on that issue, that panelist is free to do so. And so I will encourage for us to have a very rich and dynamic exchange. I will encourage that our panelists become brief and focused on their presentations or their contribution. So from our 2 presenters, they've again highlighted on the importance of mangrove. They've shared the current threats and state that Ghana's mangrove go through, and then the need for equity and inclusivity in their conservation and then in management. So I will start with Mr. Ofori, Samuel. So from the inclusivity point of view, we have seen the importance that we should bring everyone on board for mangrove conservation. I will want to know, how do you see traditional authorities, local communities, and state institutions working together for mangrove management? Is that even possible? And if it is, could there be some barriers, and how can these be achieved? I hope my question is clear.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on this stage and then also to share a bit of my experience in response to these questions. Yes, indeed, it is very relevant, and I really appreciate the presentation that we're given ahead of time. It is very important to have a very collective action when it comes to mangrove conservation and the restoration. And many times we do have restoration activities or conservation activities being done as a way to just suggest to communities to bring in their interest in a way that we don't first hear from the communities, and as you said in the question, the traditional authorities. Thankfully, based on my role right now, I do manage a number of restoration projects, or some of them are mangrove restoration projects, and we've seen where, in some cases, where communities were not initially involved in the planning of the proposal or planning of the project activities, and they were brought in at the latter time when the project was going to kickstart. So in this case, what happened was that there were a lot of disagreement, there were a lot of setbacks, because the communities they felt that they were not appreciated, they felt that they were not seen as the main stakeholders in this case, because again, these are people who live in the coastal environments. So it is possible to bring in that kind of joint effort, but it is important to start as early as possible. we've seen cases where we would receive proposals, but then these proposals were written without communities' involvement. And there's a lot of damages that needs to be corrected, but then that, usually it's too late. So yes, it is possible. And as I said, these are one of the challenges that we do face. But just an opportunity to highlight Hempano's work. Hempano is a great organization that we work with. And I got a chance to visit them a couple of weeks ago. And we did realize how their involvement of the communities is really driving the project in a positive way. And I think that there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from them across to other organizations.
Thank you so much, Sami, for those insightful input. Thank you. And for mentioning here Mpoano, maybe I can move to Mr. Norte Daniel. And could it be that, or let me, how are you, and I mean when I say are you, Yen Mpoano in this case, doing it to really bring these almost everybody on board? What is your technique, if I can put it like that?
All right. Thank you very much, members and panelists. I'm very much happy to be part of this forum or webinar. Like I've already been introduced, I'm Daniel, and I've been with Mpoano for the past 13 years from its inception. What we do at Mpoano is actually co-creating. We call it co-creating. So we create every project with the community. We visit communities, explain to them or learn together with them what the issues are. And then we, from there, look at how possible those issues could be addressed. And through that, there are a couple of actions that are put together, written down. And based on these actions, we look for proposals or call for proposal that addresses these issues. So I must say that first, we normally do what we call the community engagement, active community engagement, where we work with them. We learn from the communities as well, because we are not the knowledge holders. Even though we've been to school, we've learned a lot. But like the earlier presenters have already mentioned, local ecological knowledge or traditional ecological knowledge is very key and very important. So we do what we call the trust building and ownership sections with these communities. So the communities actually own whatever we do. And like the earlier presenter mentioned, and your question was on how traditional authorities, and because in Ghana, when lands are not owned by the government, there are just few lands that are owned by government. So in the mangrove conservation effort, when you move to the Greater Accra, moving towards the eastern part of Ghana, that is the Keita Ramsar site area, these lands are owned by families and clans. So you can't just go there to do anything. And then when you come to the western section, the land tenure system is basically for traditional, communal land. So traditional authorities own the land in trust for the community. So whatever you want to do on those lands, you need to actually engage these people from the beginning, from the scratch, so that they will own the process, and then there will be trust building going forward. I always say, like Dr. Krampa mentioned, that livelihood should be linked to, conservation should be linked to livelihood. I always say that conservation efforts without livelihood is just conversation, because the people need those resources to actually live. And the first, I would say the first thing on earth is to live first. If you are not able to live, then all the good plans you have, you can't implement them. So linking conservation to livelihood is a key component of the work we are doing, and that has really helped us. For example, if people know that they cut the mangrove, they will not get their oysters, they are not going to cut. If they know that these mangrove forests will even help them in beekeeping enterprises, then they are willing to conserve. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for those inputs. You mentioned two things that crossed my mind, and so just hold on. You talked about your co-creating idea where you bring the community on board, and you also mentioned the fact that in as much as you guys have been in school, the people equally have some information that is very profitable to the conservation efforts. And so I would like you to let us be a little practical. With your over decade experience with Hiempuano, what are some of the examples of these indigenous knowledge or practices that have contributed to the sustainable mangrove management in Ghana? So that would be one. And then follow it up, like, are they formally documented, you know? And then can we start talking about some of these information properly documented and even incorporating in our curricula, school curricula, you know, and then for policy and then scientific framework. So first of all, have you experienced any practical example where you incorporated indigenous knowledge, and then how best can we document this thing formally, you know, to back it up with science as well? Yeah, thank you. Please, you are muted.
Sorry. So let me give practical examples. One is with respect to even the season for these mangroves to sprout, getting the propagules and even the seeds from the different species Mr. Divine mentioned. So, for example, in literature, you realize that you can get seedlings from maybe October, November, they're moving into January, February. But because of climate change, things have changed. And these communities are always with these resources. So if you rely on the book that you are going to get maybe propagules or seedlings with that recorded period in literature, you might be wrong, or you go there and then you not get the seedlings or the propagules as documented. So these are some of the things we've learned from the communities. Another thing we learned, which for me was an eye-opener, is even collecting the propagules. When you collect them and you are not ready to plant, how do you preserve it? So we learned from them. You bring the thing together and then you put it in a place that the humidity is lower. You just put water. You lay it horizontally. If you put it vertically, if you put it vertically, it's better. But if you put it horizontally, then they will start sprouting. So this is one thing we've learned from the community. Another thing I will want to add is the documentation of this local ecological knowledge. There have been some projects in the past that tried to document some of these local ecological knowledge. One was under the US Forest Service project, and also USAID, where we try to document local knowledge of fishermen. The fishermen are able to tell you exactly where fishes are spawning, the time when you see this particular fish in this month, then you know that in the next 2 months you are going to see this particular fish. For example, let me use practical example. If you in the past if you see sardinella or these anchovies, they come and then the mackerels and stuff follow before you get to the other species. All these are known by these local people. And we started doing some documentation, but I think there's more work to do. And if you are able to document this, then that will be the basis or the force for us to stand on it and push policymakers to actually do some reforms within our policy. Because merging ecological knowledge or traditional ecological knowledge with science is the way to go. So I think there's more work to be done, but even though some of these things have started. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Note, for your input. Thank you. And I remember, was it last year or last 2 years, I went to the field with my students, Muni Pomaze Ramsar site. And then from that discussion, we got to know that, we are discouraging the communities to not cut the mangrove for firewood. And they were talking about the fact that when you cut them and you use it to smoke your fish, it gives it a more shinier, and then it even preserves it longer than when you don't do that. So the discussion was now like, can the researchers, so here students, it can even be a project work for you, can researchers go into it to the mangroves to know what kind of active ingredient is it that is having, that when you use it to smoke fish, it gives it that long lasting or that shinier property, you know. And like you are saying, when we are able to back it with this research, it makes the indigenous knowledge well documented and well accepted. Those are very insightful inputs. Thank you so much for this. So before I go, because in your conversation, you were talking about lands, especially in Ghana, and not most of them are owned by the chiefs, and then not the state, if I can put it like that. So I will go to Ms. Nada, but before then, since we are still talking about the need for inclusivity and then the need for equity, I would rather want us to more like go in that direction. Then after that, I will come to Nada for her input. And so I will come to Mrs. Norte. As of course, there is the need to bring all stakeholders on board. I think that is inclusivity, and that is well established. And so all here means gender, age, everybody should be on board. So I want you to, with your background with DA, I would like you to focus a little more on women and youth. You know, what practical strategies can ensure that both women and youth are actively engaged and empowered in mangrove-related livelihood and conservative initiatives? Yeah, if you can share some success stories of gender and youth being included, and then there was an excellent outcome so far as mangrove conservation is concerned. Yeah. Mrs. Norte, over to you.
Yeah. Good morning to all. Yeah, with the work that we did with DOPA, when we went into the community, we saw the shells of the fishes lying around, and they were inquisitive enough to find out what it was. Then we learned that formerly the shells were in the community at the beach, but now it's gone far. So we realized that there were certain things that they were doing that was rather depleting the shellfishes in the river, in the estuary. So we decided to help them to revamp the shellfishery, because they were willing to revamp it because it was one of the sources of their livelihood. And so we had to engage all the community members, the elders, the leaders, the women, and the youth, because all of them, those who were the boat riders on the estuary, and everybody that was involved on the estuary, we had to involve all of them in the stakeholder engagement. And then that was how things came out. It wasn't easy at first. We had problems. But at the end, with education and training and exposure, knowledge sharing and all that, they agreed. So the women had their voices heard. We brought all of them together, the women, the youth, the men, the boat users, and then those who were doing brush packs on the water. And then we brought somebody from UCC to train them on oyster ecology and biology, what habitat was best for oysters to grow and all that. And then they were taught how to take data on the water to see whether the water was conducive for oyster growth or it would rather kill them. So that was how we got them engaged. And then there was this highlight where they had to do a closed season so that when the oysters were spawning, the water wouldn't be disturbed. And that was a very tough area that they didn't have to pick oysters for 5 months in every year. And that was difficult for them. But with the education and knowledge sharing, they realized that, well, it was good. So they had to try it, that they would close the estuary for oyster picking from November to April every year. And that will help the spats to attach themselves to a hard substrate before the water is disturbed, so that the oysters will increase. And then we realized also that the mangroves, the oysters were mangrove oysters, and the mangroves have all been cut down. In fact, there was virtually no mangroves. You could only see one on the land. So the lecturer who came to teach them encouraged them that replanting the mangroves will also help the oyster resource to revamp. So we did that under USAID, the Sustainable Fisheries Management Program. It wasn't part of the project, but when we presented our case, they agreed to add it to the project. So by the grace of God, they agreed, especially the women who were picking the oysters, agreed to plant the mangroves back, reforest the mangrove, this thing. We raised nursery. We brought somebody from forestry to help them, teach them how to raise the nursery, and then we did that, and then we planted. So in that year, I think 2017, 2018, we planted 3,600 mangrove seedlings on the around the estuary. Before then, because the oysters didn't have the mangroves to attach themselves to, there was another management intervention where they had to send the oyster shells back into the water so that will form the hard substrate where the oyster parts could attach themselves on. And that was done. And God being so good, after the 5 months close season, and we did the opening season, they harvested a lot of oysters and they were big. So that encouraged them to continue. And this year we have had the 8th close and opening season. So that have made it successful. And then because we had, they were going through continuous training and they were being sent out to interact with others. They had field tours and other things. The other men, formerly those who were harvesting fish with the boats and the brush park farmers were not part of DUPA, but then they came and joined us. So now we have brush park farmers, brush park fishers, and then the boat owners and all those people, part of us. And we are cultivating the red mangroves. The brush park fishers use mangroves in forming their brush parks in the water. But they cultivate the white mangroves. And those ones they cut. That was the agreement we came to in the co-management plan, that they will plant white mangroves. And those ones they will cut to make their brush parks. And we will cultivate red mangroves, which should never be touched because they have been educated on the essence, the importance, or the benefits of mangrove cultivation for the environment, for revamping their shellfish resources and all that, which they have agreed on. So we have a good co-management committee that is spanning 3 communities, that is Botiano, Chokome, and Tetegu. They are the 3 communities that are along the estuary. So we have a good co-management plan that has been accepted by Fisheries Commission. It was endorsed by Parliament. So DOPA has an exclusive right over the estuary, that is the shellfishes in the estuary in the Dinsu Delta. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Noted. That was quite deep information given to us. And when women come on board, what they can do. You've been able to bring the men as well into it. And another thing I'm picking from your reflection or your discussion is that there should be a need to, and I think previous presenters have also mentioned it, the need to support their livelihood,
Yes.
So, exactly. And when they appreciate
Yes.
that, they are able to really
Yeah,
come on
come
board to
together.
support,
Yeah.
exactly, to get together. That's thank you so much for those inputs. One of our panelists equally have another engagement, and so we want him to quickly make his inputs so that he can kindly leave us, and that is Mr. Eric Kusi with Wildlife Division of Forestry Commission. I remember in Mrs. Norte's discussion, at a point you brought in the wildlife people to help in the planting and all that. So he may share the role they play so far as mangrove conservation is concerned, and any other comment even as he's leaving us. Mr. Kusi, the floor is for you.
Thank you very much, Doc. I'm very happy to have joined you, even though a bit late. I was supposed to have been part of the panel, but due to communication gap, I couldn't. But all the same, we are all working towards the good of our wetlands, our mangrove restoration issues. Currently, I'm in Keita and attending another important meeting just like yours, all in discussions about our mangrove and how best we can restore them. Listening to the earlier speakers and panel members, I'm very happy that the kind of interest that all of you have shown in fighting against the depletion of our mangrove and all the other things you are doing to support our communities to be able to sustainably manage and utilize the resources that we have. As Forestry Commission, Wildlife Division of Forestry Commission, our mandate is to coordinate the activities of all the institutions that are working for the good of the wetlands, the mangrove, and the community that these resources support. You know, I don't want to belabor on the challenges we have. Most of the panelists have enumerated some of them. I've had the opportunity to meet a few of the institutions and organizations working in the landscape. I took over just 3 months ago as the coordinator for wetlands in Wildlife Division. But I've had the opportunity to meet a few of the organizations. As I mentioned, you have already mentioned the difficulties and the challenges we have with the restoration of our mangrove. One of the main challenges is the land ownership system that we have in Ghana. I think last month I attended the COP15, and even though the challenges cut across most of the African countries, but in Ghana, our land tenure system is a very big issue that we need to address. Another challenge that I believe all of you know is the lack of regulatory framework. There are a lot of institutions working for the good of the communities, for the good of the wetland resources, but it seems our activities, we have not been able to come together or coordinate our activities. As a division, the Wildlife Division is now trying to build a database of all these institutions, at least to be able to coordinate and monitor some of the activities we have been doing. Even though it's good that the interest is coming and it's in multiple folds, but I'm also foreseeing a situation where if we don't take care, we are sort of bombarding our communities with a whole lot of information. Sometimes one community will receive about 10 organizations within a space of 1 month. And if we are able to coordinate, if we are able to communicate and identify ourselves with the Forestry Commission officers or site managers around, we'll be able to deal with such situations. While there are a lot of communities unattended to, you see that few of the communities that have been attended to will continue to attend to them. These are a few of the issues that I have identified. We are trying to work around the clock to at least come out with some regulatory mechanisms for us to know who is where, what an institution is doing, and how best we can coordinate, so that at the end of the day, we don't replicate, but we coordinate and we don't compete. I'm seeing a whole lot of competition. Sometimes competition is good, but when it becomes acrimonious and people feel they are being done with or being cheated, it becomes unhealthy. So these and other issues are there to be addressed. But I would like to thank Blue Carbon Resource Research Institute for this opportunity. At least I've had the opportunity to hear about a whole lot of institutions that are working. Hempoano, I've met them. I've met few of the institutions, but there are a whole lot of them that is the first time I'm hearing from them. We welcome all on board. At least let's identify ourselves. Let us know where we are working, what we are doing. When we attended the COP15, countries come and they are projecting and they are presenting results and other things. We are doing a whole lot of things, but because we are not coordinating our activities, we sort of miss out most of the things that you people are doing. So, in brief, I would like to maybe seek for your permission to not leave you. I'll be monitoring it, even though I'm attending another meeting. I'll be monitoring it on my phone, and I'm happy that I've been able to at least join you briefly and share with you. Our doors are open, as I mentioned. Let's work together. Let's coordinate our activities so that whatever we have to present will be good for our communities. We don't need to sort of bombard few of the communities while there are more of them lying idle to be attended to. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, all panelists. See you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And those are very great inputs there. Thank you so much, Mr. Kusi. And yeah, I agree with you that there is the need for collaboration. There is the need for togetherness for us to build this together, because otherwise, if everybody is doing what, and at the end of the day, we don't know what is really happening. Or like he said, one community might receive a whole lot of help while other communities are lacking. And it is also giving me another understanding that could it be that then we don't probably have a national, policy as to how some of these things run. And so it's good. This webinar is equally happening, and I'm sure our policy brief will talk about some of these things. And so we will move to our last panelist, and then we now open the session for the Q&A. So please, if you are still thinking about your question, or you are not so sure, whatever, you may start putting it in the chat box so that you can be attended to. So Nada, as some of our participants mentioned, we keep talking about land. And Mangrove seems to be at the coastal intertidal zone. Okay, so that is where the land will meet the sea. And so some of these areas, especially when you come to Ghana, are also becoming areas, rich areas for more like ecotourism and other activities, all for the development and then the economy of the country. So how can spatial planning and land use regulation help balance the mangrove ecosystem protection with competing development interests along the Ghana coast? So how can there be that balance? there is protection of mangrove, but equally there is also development going on along our coast for our economy. So if Nada could hear and understand me, you can kindly address this for us.
Thank you. And thanks for the invitation. Before I answer your question, I just want to say
Please
that
speak
the
up a
Land Use and
little.
Spatial Planning Authority. Oh,
Hello, can you hear me?
Excellent. Yes, that's very clear.
Okay, so the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority is a public organization that was promulgated in 2016 by the Land Use and Spatial Planning Act 925. It's actually replaced the former Town and Country Planning Authority. And currently what we do, one of our functions is to ensure the control of fiscal development in uncontrolled or less controlled but sensitive areas, especially in our case, mangroves. So we also issue regulatory notices, provide guidelines, and also give directives to planning authorities on compliance of how to go about their human settlements functions. In respect to the spatial planning and land use regulation and how we could help balance mangrove ecosystem protection, I think that what we normally do, for instance, when we are preparing spatial plans at the coastal level, we actually identify, or should I say from the analysis to the development of strategies and all that, mangroves is indicated in the sense that, for instance, mangrove, we identify the ecosystem types. We also assess the ecological conditions around the coastal areas. And by assessing that, we try to identify the vulnerable areas, the near threatened, endangered areas, and also areas that are protected. And that helps us actually in coming out with strategies in terms of the strategies where, for instance, we need to come out with a challenge where we need to address the challenges that are being happening at the coastal areas with respect to mangrove depletion. We develop strategies to improve upon that. Where, for instance, they need to improve upon the potential as well. We develop strategies to also improve the potential of the mangroves in those areas. I would say that when this is done, it's actually important that because for instance, the mangrove areas have been carved out, it's very important that the planning authority, that is the district assembly, are expected to, should I say, we are supposed to protect that area. In protecting that area, the challenge is that because it belongs to families, what the planning authorities are supposed to acquire it. But because these are huge tracts of land, huge areas, so it becomes a challenge for the assemblies to acquire these plants, or should I say these areas, these mangrove areas. So because of that, they are with families, they are owned by families, and then the families then decide to go in and do whatever that they intend to do. So those are some of the things, but unfortunately, we have to find a way of us trying to enforce this areas that have been protected.
Thank you so much. There is the need for us to enforce the areas that need to be protected. And I can't agree less than that. Thank you so much, Nada. So we have about 10 to 15 minutes to go. And so at this point, I would like to open the session to our participants. If they have any further question or comment to our panelists, to our presenters as well, this is the time to, you can raise your hand, put it in the chats, or yes, and then you'll be given the opportunity to speak. So our participants, we are waiting for your comments or questions. Okay, so I have one here from Pearl Asari. And then she is saying that, should we consider conservation and preservation as methods or systems that rely on indigenous peoples and their knowledge, given that the information on the identification of problems and the implementation methods depend on them? Let me read it again. Should we consider conservation and preservation as methods or systems that rely on indigenous people and their knowledge, given that the information on the identification of problems and implementation methods depend on them? Pearl, if you can unmute and maybe explain further. Probably I'm not reading it so well, sorry. Or if our panelists, any of us have gotten what she wants to say, you can address it quickly. Our panelists,
Okay.
our presenters. Yes.
Right. Thank you very much, moderator Dr. Quigreen. So yes, indeed, our attempt to answer, I get the sense that in as much as science always goes to community, goes to society, goes to humanity to identify problems and also use scientific approach to innovate solutions, I get the sense that she wants to find out if that is the right path or if we have forgotten that approach. So yes, indeed, that is actually the way to go. But you should we understand that there are frameworks in governance and also frameworks in societal living. And so there are actually constraints that does not allow the flow of community co-design or community co-creation into projects that we actually see around. And so sometimes bring questions to sustainability, because at the end of the day, whilst we provide the solutions through policy and research and innovation and knowledge generation to the communities, we do not really involve them in as much as they should have been involved, even though that is actually what helps to get the success stories, also find them to own these initiatives and these preservation and conservation ideas. I'm hoping that this helps to understand. Thank you.
Thank you. There is another comment here. It says that following a recent field sampling exercise at the Densu Delta, and this is from Prince Charlie, my team, including Dr. Ramat, observed a concerning decline in mangrove oyster population and the presence of dead oysters. We also encountered challenges in identifying the white mangrove species. I would like to ask if the DOPA is aware of these specific ecological concerns. If so, what conservation strategies are you putting in place to restore the oyster population and protect the mangrove habitats? So if you are aware of some of these.
Yeah. Dr. Duke, I'll take up that question.
Sure, thank you.
Hello.
Please let's make it brief because our time is also gone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The dead oysters that they saw is a result of the opening of the Wager Dam. You know, when the Wager Dam is opened, it comes through the estuary, and then it changes the salinity that is good for, conducive for oyster growth. So most of the oysters die when that estuary floods or there is high tide, as a result of the this thing. So that is one of our problems. And then the whole place also gets flooded with the, so when mangroves have been planted, when the seedlings are there and the flooding comes, then we lose some and then we lose a lot of the oysters. That is the reason why they found dead oysters in the, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. There is another one here from Emilia Norte and saying that, thank you, Nada, for your information. May I know, so that means it's going to Nada, may I know what your organization is doing to stop people who are encroaching in protected areas like the Densu and Sakumono, to deter them? I don't know if there's currently anything you guys are doing to help that. Ms. Tando.
Okay. So yes. Before I talk about what my organization is doing, I'll say that planning currently is done at the district level. So by law, the assemblies are expected to enforce all plans that are being prepared. So in terms of if any encroachment or anything that is going on, is the mandate of the planning authority of the district. So for Sakumono areas and then the Densu, I'll say that the first point of call is the planning authority, that's the district or municipal assembly, who are supposed to enforce the protection of these areas. However, what land use and spatial planning also does is that we provide, for instance, because we are coming from out, we are a national body, we issue directives, or regulatory notices. So we do it through the Ministry of Local Government.
Okay.
So we don't do it directly to the districts. We do it through the Ministry of Local Government, bringing the attention to what is going on, and then they take it from there by charging the local assemblies, that's the planning authorities, to enforce those protected areas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that means that at least there are some laws governing that. So we are looking forward to the enforcing such laws. And so I believe that maybe in our next webinar, we'll have to invite the municipal people to also be here. Thank you so much for your feedback. Any other, if you probably you want to speak up with your question or your comment on
I want to ask one very last question. So in terms of policy wise, what is the way forward for mangrove? Probably I'll start with I don't know who would want to answer that question. For mangrove for Ghana.
Happy to take that. Yeah. So actually, we did publish 2 papers that are driving towards the need to have, for example, in Ghana, to have a national mangrove management plan. We do not have one. Few countries do have that in Africa. We can speak of Mozambique that just published theirs, like I think in June or July. Kenya has one. I think Liberia as well. So that kind of document in itself gives some level of direction or sense of direction to us. I was really impressed when the Wildlife Division manager was speaking, because we have a lot of projects all over, but then we do not have a common goal. And as a country like Ghana, in our NDC, we do not have any mention of mangrove ecosystems or any actions towards that. So I think we need that kind of document that is very comprehensive and that has very specific targets, and that again brings on board all relevant stakeholders. I think that would be like a first step to address these issues that we have with mangrove ecosystems in our country.
Yeah. Thank you. We have another one here from Augustine Mensah. And then Augustine is saying that on gender
Can I say something before?
Sure. Yes, please. Hello, Nada. Nada, I think the network, so we can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I just also wanted to add on to the initiative. I think that based on, for us, in terms of when we prepare our plans, what we've observed, and I think could be an initiative that could be picked on. I don't know how we could go about it, but it's how we could look at changing the mindset of the people, because we could come out with all the plans, all the strategies, but if the mindset of the people are still the same, it's actually difficult to really implement those strategies. So if we could come up with an initiative that could change the mindset of the people, that there's a need to adopt these alternative livelihood programs that are being introduced, and also for them to also understand that the depletion of these mangroves also have an consequences. It's one of these things that we could help improve mangrove conservation in the country.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you as well. That means there is a change of mind we all need to have if we want to conserve and protect our mangroves. Thank you. There is another one. So we have 4 minutes away, and so maybe it says that from Augustine Mensah on gender and inclusivity. Beyond forming women's groups, what are the most significant structural barriers preventing women from having an equal voice in mangrove conservation leadership and benefit sharing in Ghana? And how can projects be designed to proactively overcome these?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm of the opinion that if projects are designed without women's involvement, without hearing the voice of women, they will be marginalized. But if the project is designed in such a way that everybody, all the gender issues are resolved, and then everybody is involved in the decision making, and this thing, there will be nobody will be marginalized in that issue. But if projects go on and they go into the community and involve only men, and they leave out the women, then the women will be marginalized. But if the women are involved, so it is for projects to actively involve everybody in the community, so that if the project is to survive and be sustainable, everybody that matter, or everybody who is using that resource, who has something to do with that resource, should be brought in, so that there should be a discussion, an open discussion, where everybody's mind will be met, and then there will be an agreement. And then we know that when you go to a place where there is resistance, training, capacity building, exposure of the people to the benefits and the benefits of whatever project you want to do. When they see it, that we are doing this, it will benefit my livelihood, it will benefit my this thing. You realize that the people will come down to accept the project. We didn't have it easy when we were forming DOPA at all. We didn't have it easy. One time we went to an information center to broadcast something on mangroves. Before we realized, they had to close all the doors and windows because the community surrounded the place. They wanted to beat us up. But later on, with education and then encouraging them to listen to us with practical examples of what is going on, they realized that they had to give in. That was how we were able to achieve So everybody should be involved. Everybody's view should be heard and then added to the whatever project it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will take the last two questions, and then yes.
Dr. yeah, if I
Yes.
may add to what
Okay.
Emilia just said, you know, over the years, we also realized that when it comes to capacity building, we've left our women for a long time, you know. So, you know, if we want women to also take up leadership roles in this conservation effort, then we need to intensify our capacity building efforts. Yeah, so that's what I will also add to what Emilia just said. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So the last two, that will be the last two questions. I'll take them together. And though one of them is directly to Nada, I will still open it up to if anyone also would like to address it. And for continue conversation, our panelists are presented. You can share some information about you for the public if you want someone to contact you for further engagements, maybe your organization, your email address or something for collaboration, so that we don't want the talking to just end here. So you can share your contact if you are okay with that in the chat box, and then people can pick it up. So the last two questions for the day, and that is Miss Nada, okay. Please, have there been any instances where mangroves had to be removed for coastal developmental projects? If so, what are the decisions or strategies considered for mangrove conservation? So has there been any time that it has been removed and for developmental projects, and what was the decision about that? And the other thing, and I think this one, Mr. Norte could address this. He says that on the follow up on the indigenous knowledge, are they also allowed to take part in lawmaking, in ensuring conservation, and also reintroducing the taboos which are now termed as outmoded cultural practices? And all those are in our chat box. So maybe Ms. Nada can pick up, and then Mr. Note too can wrap up with that question for us.
Okay. So first of all, I would say that we'll try as much as possible not to enter into mangroves. However, if, for instance, an assessment is done and the development will be for the benefit of the entire community, for instance, maybe for a road or something, a road has to pass through a mangrove, then these are some of the things that you have to consider, but we try as much as possible not to enter into mangroves. Aside that, in terms of strategies, we try to always come up with, or should I say, involve the community when we are doing such a thing. And also we do restoration. So and also we also do sustainable use by promoting, trying to balance the human needs, and also trying to conserve the mangrove. So all these things are some of the things that we consider, but we try as much. The initial thing is we try as much as possible not to enter into an area that is, or should I say, mangrove.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's like conservation, not undermining development, and also vice versa, development not undermining conservation. And so there should be that good balance in all of these things. Thank you for your response. Mr. Norte, can you wrap up with the indigenous knowledge question?
All right. So thank you very much. Yeah. So with respect to that question or comment, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I was saying just
Okay.
be brief so that we can.
Yeah, very brief. Yeah. So yes. So communities or indigenous people are allowed. So that is why we have the bylaws and also the norms. For example, in most of our communities, we are adopting what the Wildlife Division calls the CRIMA. So that's Community Resource Management Areas. So here communities come together and put in laws and stuff that will help them conserve their resources. And that is gazetted at the assembly level for it to be used as a law. So communities are allowed to do that. But just to add that, like Ms. Nadia said, there have been projects in Ghana that have actually destroyed mangroves. One is the Ghana gas pipeline from the Atwabu area to Takrady. They passed it through some of the mangrove areas. And in conservation, we know that when you destroy some place, you are also allowed to restore at a different area. So that can also be looked at so that there will be a win-win situation. Currently, there's going to be a petroleum hub within the Domini area, which is going to help the nation, and that is actually going to affect some of the mangroves. But like I said, we need to also look at where we will also offset those distractions. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was brief, concise, and also at straight to the point. Thank you so much. I wish we could go on, but our time is up and we have to wrap up for today's BlueChat webinar. And these are just few points to summarize almost all that we have talked about. Of course, we have seen the inclusive mangrove conservation really requires stronger collaboration between the state, the traditional, the local actors, and all active stakeholders. We need to bring everybody on board. There should be equity. Your gender or your age shouldn't be a reason to be out of a benefit so far as conservation of mangrove is concerned. And of course, there should also be the need to have a balance with national development and conservation as well. So though we may need certain things like roads, other utilities, but we also need the mangroves as well. So there should be a very good balance going forward. And we also realize that there should be the need for all of us coming together. If there could be some national policy bringing all of us together so that the work is not overdone at a place and there isn't a lot of competition, but there is a lot of collaboration among us all, because we all have one goal, which is to protect our aquatic ecosystem. And this has been a very insightful dialogue, I must say. And so we will just encourage you to be looking forward to our next BlueChat webinar. And if you wouldn't mind at this moment, I would like us to put on our camera for a picture, if you are okay with it. If we can all have our cameras on for a quick picture. Our host, are you ready to take our picture?
Yeah, give us a few minutes. I think some people still don't have their cameras on, but
Oh, the host is my senior. Nice to see you.
yeah, nice to see you too. Okay.
Where can I get the camera?
Yeah, so that they can.
Mangoes.
I think some people still have theirs off, but it's okay.
Maybe we can, yeah.
All right. All right. Okay. So thank you very much. Done.
So as we wrap up, we sincerely want to thank our panelists, our presenters, our partners, both joining us in Ghana and internationally. We so much appreciate your time. And of course, to our participants for joining this webinar to make it a success. I believe we've all could agree with me that it has been a very impactful discussion, and we would like to really thank you on behalf of the organizing team. And then, yes, let us all have a very wonderful day ahead. Once again, this is Blue Resources Research and Policy Institute coming with our BlueChats webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good day. Bye. Juliet, I saw you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
Hi, Doc.
Yeah, I saw you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, Solo, bye. Hey, Bertrand. Mrs. Norte, we appreciate you. So you will hear from us.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Dr. Ramat. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Justice. Deborah, that's where you are.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thanks for joining. Jonas, Jedidiah, thank you all for joining. Delali, can she hear me?
Hi, Dr. Duka.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm doing well. Hope you are fine too.
Yes, yes. Good to have you here. We'll definitely talk behind the scenes.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Have a good night.
Mm.
Yeah, yours is good night, or midnight?
It's 7. It's almost 8, but I had to wake up very early. I joined at 6 a.m.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.